I'm Sam Rose, and this is Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitors somehow just launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Lauryn, you built Snooze into the first chef-driven noodle chip brand. In fact, maybe just the first noodle chip brand. Does chef-driven really have to be the asterisk there? Because you won Netflix's Snack versus Chef, which I saw that episode. It was so rad. And you've gone from a KitchenAid pasta maker in your home kitchen, love a home kitchen story to entrepreneurship. And you're in hundreds of retail locations now, including Fairway, dearly beloved from New York, ShopRite, the Fresh Market. And today I'm really excited to chat with you about all of your approaches to sort of developing this first to market product that you've taken from concept to scale. And hopefully the people listening can get some of your hard won lessons and ease their own journey. That's the objective, is we're just going to help other people do it.
I mean, I feel like all founders know you have to pay it forward somehow. So
Yes.
That's it's a nice thing to know that, I went through the hard times. So if I can make it easier for you, we're winning some way. So I'll take it.
So, okay. So you go from winning this competition and you've got a TV show idea and you've turned it into a real CPG business, which is a totally different ball of wax. Although I think, frankly, it's probably harder to win a TV cooking show. So you've done the hard thing.
You would think that, but yeah, here we are.
But here you are. What inspired you to just take the make it real path?
Yeah. I mean, I've come from food. I've worked almost every part of the industry in food, be it except for CPG, consumer product goods. And at the time, I was a food editor for an online publication. I was doing recipe development. I was writing a lot of cultural food pieces, connecting with a lot of different people and just learning a lot about food while also trying to educate a lot of people about food. And it was during the pandemic, and I kind of was at this wanted to do a little bit more, wasn't sure what that was. Found myself on a Netflix show, and it really wasn't ever in my realm to think of launching a product, let alone launching a snack product. And so for me, I was kind of going through this show experience being I'm going to learn a lot about packaged goods. I'm going to learn a lot about how snacks are made. I was always obsessed with those, how it's made, about different food product shows. And so I was oh, I'm going to get all behind the scenes and everything. And so when I found myself on the finale, they were what do you want to make? I was honestly, I didn't even think I would be here. So I'm just going to need a minute. And I worked in a lot of Italian restaurants. I've grown to love every form of noodles, whether they're Asian inspired, Italian inspired, wherever in the globe they come from. And so for me, I was just oh man, guilty pleasure. I wish I just had a bowl of noodles to snack on. And I was that's, I feel a concept. For me, I've wanted to put more of these culturally specific foods or products back into the aisle. I feel a lot of things have been whitewashed, and also working in digital, seeing how SEO, search engine optimization, really drives not only what people are being fed online, but then also what editors are writing about and how they title things. And so it's just, I wanted to get a lot of these flavors and cuisines that I've grown to love and admire into really any aisle. And it felt like snacks is really this low hanging fruit that it's really accessible to people. There's not a huge price tag on a lot of them. And then noodles is a great way there's noodles in just about every corner of the globe. And so that also felt like something that was accessible, but then getting it into these more, again, culturally specific dishes, if you will. So the idea stemmed from taking these actual noodle dishes, calling them by what they are, and then making them these different shapes and textures. I guess not noodle textures per se, but with each kind of different shape of noodles, it is inherently these different textures, which is also
because the thickness of it.
Yeah. I mean, I could go on and on. It's so all of this just kind of like snowballed. And then when I won, it was just like, wow. I mean, I love this concept. This is really novel.
Yeah.
I mean, it was clear the reception from people that there is a hole in the market for this product. And I really did want to see it come to light. Did I know how to make the product come to light? No. And so it started with Google and a lot of learning and a lot of pushing and a lot of conversations. I've made a lot of strides and yeah, it's really exciting to see where the product is today. There's still so many things that I want to do to improve upon what we have and then also just extend the product line. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. The past year we launched in February 2024, it's August 25, and we're in over 300 stores and just growing.
That's so great. Okay, so my biggest takeaway so far is, and you said you like to learn, which I feel like is a real through line for successful founders and entrepreneurs who are just like, what I learned from you just now is like, you don't actually have to know anything to start. You just have to be willing to learn.
I'm like, honestly, you see some of, I mean, you see some of the people that have a successful company out there or that have sold successful companies and you're just like, I mean, I feel like I'm smarter than you. So if you can do it, I mean, there's I've kind of noticed in my career, like I do have this bit of imposter syndrome, but at the same
Mm.
time, I do kind of go after challenges with this, like, I know like that person did it. So there has to be a way for me to figure this out. And I'm gonna find people that know how to do it, talk to them, and then we're gonna push through. And that is also the founder mindset. It's just you have to just keep pushing and it's just no, it's
Yeah.
going to be hard, but like you just can't stop.
Just can't stop. Yeah, that seems to be like the same DNA,
Yeah.
will not take no
Yeah.
for an
We're just
answer.
I mean, I won't lose. That's the
Yeah. Well, there's a competitive streak element to it too, right?
yes,
Like if you
exactly.
don't enjoy positive friction, aka competition, then you probably won't enjoy the entrepreneurial journey because
No.
every day is a fight like that. Even if the fight is with yourself and what you don't know yet, and competing with yourself to be like, okay, I'm gonna tackle this challenge. I'm going through a moment like that in one of our businesses right now for our software platform where I'm like, okay, there is just like a whole SaaS like go to market thing I'm building a product and then I'm building the products that sell the product at the same
Mhm.
time. And then I'm selling the product. And I'm like, whoa, it's a lot of simultaneous learning curves that I have like, familiarity with
Right,
the
right.
pieces and edges of it. But it's like, today you're just gonna like code landing pages. I'm like, oh, okay, today I'm gonna code landing pages. That is my
Yeah.
job.
And just figuring out too with so many priorities and so many things that you have to learn,
Yeah.
where do you start? Like where do you prioritize it? Everything is a priority. So yeah, and doing that all while you're like, I mean, yeah, time is money in
Time is
so many
money,
different
man.
ways. So
How did you validate? Okay, so you've got this idea on TV and it works in front of like judges and cameras and in this very kind of like contained and let's use the word like produced environment. What helped you bridge the gap between this works here, but it's going to work in the marketplace such that you were like, okay with spending your own time is money time
yeah,
on building it?
yeah, we went I initially went and took the both the product and built this kind of sort of what I would imagine a deck looked like for a new product. I had no idea and it was like I look back at it now and I feel like a 5-year-old built it. Just because you have
Mm,
no idea in the beginning really too what are you trying to I mean too with this new kind of product concept, like what am I trying to put out there? What does this look like? And yeah, how am I trying to sell it? And so I went to a couple different culinary incubator programs at different schools and talked to a couple different people. And they essentially were like, yes, this seems like an amazing idea, but you already like have the concept because at this point too, I knew how to make snacks. Like we learned
right.
how to do product development on like us, I would like say a somewhat manufacturing level, but
Okay.
understanding like how I can take a tomato and roast it and take those fats and then make a seasoning from that. So really being able to construct this more nuanced snack than I would say like an average consumer could. So I had a lot of what it took to kind of bring this to the market, except for kind of the more operational side experience of it. Yeah, I feel like just Googled a lot and found a lot of communities and networks that put me in touch with the right people to figure out where do I even start and when is the right time. In terms of the market validation, I ended up doing a Kickstarter very early on because I found it a way to get that interest and kind of show sales numbers in a way. And while I was also trying to fundraise and trying to figure out how to make this product. So it was in like a lot of different stages of getting the like, okay, this is something. This is definitely something. I kind of got the validation in a lot of different stages from talking to different communities, different leaders in the industry, as well as I did a Kickstarter, which kind of helped show me that validation and numbers in kind of like a roundabout way while I was also fundraising and figuring out how to make the product. So it was, yeah, a lot of different stages where it just felt like, okay, this is definitely something we should keep going.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like those kind of like early signals and takeaways of like asking a person, and then like you're going to get some feedback, and then like, okay, asking a cohort of people and get more feedback and learn more. And then while asking maybe like, a couple thousand people on Kickstarter, like
Yeah,
during
yeah,
your thing, and just sort of building the flywheel for yourself of like conviction that this is a good place to, spend your time as money time.
yeah,
And
exactly.
okay, I want to hear the story about your very first batch on your
Oh my
KitchenAid.
gosh.
Like, narrate the how it's made of the first batch, because then I want you to narrate the how it's made of today.
I mean, the very first batch was literally on the Snack Verse show. And that is like, I had never even thought of it or considered how to make it or anything before that challenge. And so I like had somewhat of a concept of how different chips use different kind of what words that I'm trying to find. Yeah, different ingredients and how they worked when whether they're fried or baked or however. And so knowing that I knew personally I wanted something crunchy, and to hearing on the show, I heard a lot of stories about how people, at one point I did have kind of like this ramen snack and everyone was like, oh, like I always ate instant ramen blocks at the corner store. And so it was like a lot of connectors where I would hear things that I was like crunchy, like I feel like it should be crunchy. And knowing that the chip category is such a big, but like very like high velocity category, like there's a lot of players, but those players do very well. Like there can be a lot. So I just kind of put together a random recipe of what I thought would work and went for it. And it was, I got to the final part. And I also was like, I'm going to hand roll these. What I wanted them to be were like cascatelli. And it was
Uh-huh.
like, at the end of that, I was like, these look like gnocchi. And I was talking with the producer on so many levels. I was like just crying because I was like, one, they look like gnocchi, and everyone's going to flag me as like this person that calls himself a chef, and like they don't even look like what I said they were going to look like. And biting into them, the texture was horrible. They were more airy and like all these things that were just not what they were meant to be. So I just kind of had to like bite my tongue and watch as the judges ate it. And I feel like they were very nice about how they tasted. But I think overall, like the biggest thing was the flavor and the concept. And that is really why I won, because version one was not it. And
Yeah.
how they are made today is completely different. I would say the texture is really this cross between a chip and a puff. They're really airy, but they're light and crispy. And then the biggest thing for us is our flavor. I mean, we really try to hone in on this like developed seasoned flavor. And that's why we say chef crafted, because you're getting these more like rich flavors that you would think that someone spent all day cooking
Yeah.
versus kind of like these more like bottom line. Like I didn't want I would say like our red sauce to taste like a pizza flavor.
Fair. Because you can find a lot of pizza flavored things in the way that you can find banana flavored things. And you're like, wait, all these things taste the same. But yours are like more bespoke, and you've done flavor development to
More,
sort
yeah,
of,
like complex.
yeah.
Like even our best selling flavor is easily our spicy miso ramen flavor. And ramen has so many levels of just complexity to it. And even thinking about what is that heat component or what is that like slightly sweet component that's going into it, like those things can come from a lot of different sources. And so
Yeah.
making sure that not only are we kind of like we are culturally specific to those dishes, also and making sure that we're honing in on what people expect, or even, blowing it out of the water.
How do you find a co-man for something like that?
You know, it took so long.
Did it?
And that's initially, that's why I also was hand making them for so long. Coming off of the show, I know that you can't hand make a Cheeto. And so I knew that I could never make this product how I wanted it to be. But then trying this outreach where I mean, I didn't even know how it could be produced or how it should be produced. And so I'm reaching out to people to say, like, here's this idea I have. I have no idea what kind of machinery you have or what, like, I know you make these kinds of snacks and
Yeah.
that feels like in my group, but do you have like one like guidance, or, I mean, no one's taking the time to read these emails. Yeah, it was a lot of like, I talked to pasta manufacturers to be like, can I have time on your line to put in my formulation and then you ship it to me? We tried that, and it was still like, I mean, they make pasta, they don't make snacks. And so like, I couldn't do R&D with them, essentially.
Yeah.
So I would still need to outsource different parts. I moved into a commercial kitchen to try to scale up as I still search for a co-man. And I ended up I got a grant to go to a trade show, and that allowed me to just put this product out there. I created packaging for it and to just show, to be like, this is kind of the concept that I want. And I am looking for a co-man. I want to be gluten-free. I want to be non-GMO. I want to be all these things. Do you know someone? Like, it actually came from that someone put me in touch with my co-man that's 2 hours away. So they're also close to me. Again, like networking, just constantly asking people, do you know someone, or can you put me into touch with anyone? And then, I mean,
Yeah.
pay it forward.
Pay it forward. And there's a great, I think adjacent to that pay it forward concept, which so many operators and manufacturers are really surprisingly willing to do. There's kind of like this if this then that effect that you're alluding to, which is like, if you can make pasta, then can you make this other thing for me?
Right.
And you sort of like go through these decision trees of like, okay, well, if that pasta maker can't do it or isn't willing to like give me time on their line, then like maybe I don't have to talk to pasta makers anymore. Maybe I'm moving on to like this other
Right.
segment of the manufacturing market, and to just really make the decisions as small as possible, as soon as possible
Yeah,
as you
exactly.
find your way.
Yeah. And I mean, coming from like not the operational background too, to just know, I feel like, the right lingo. And I mean, it is this space that I feel like is very difficult to talk in and very aggressive too. You can
Why?
I mean, I feel like it can be easy to get lost in the sauce. And to spend a lot of money on operations, and or like lose money on overproducing because you just don't know. And so finding that special someone that will actually help you grow, help you understand the product, knowing that there's going to be these nuances, and maybe not having these large minimum order quantities for you to start with. That was very helpful for us in the beginning. And our manufacturers being able to grow as we've grown. And we even started with a completely different product, a completely different process than
Mm.
what we have now. So we've been able to change our process and our production quickly and evolve, which has been very wonderful and very, I would say, a big part of our journey.
I think finding the right size of manufacturer, or in the case of CPG, co-manufacturer, is so important at this stage, because you overshoot and there's huge MOQs, as you're referring to, and and then there's just money tied up in all of that, and that's money that you can't spend on other new product development, or a person to come help you, grind, or marketing, or packaging, or design, or any of these other things that are ultimately all a part of the product, even though they're not the thing that's in the bag. And if you go too small, then you'll have someone who is either, and here's the scariest part, they're desperate for the business.
Hmm.
And so they sort of like overstate what they can do.
Oh
And
yeah.
then you don't find out until too late. And then you start to scale and they're buried, or they didn't really have the ability to support what you wanted in the first place, but they were willing to innovate. And this is, I mean, it's a good, it comes from a good place. They're willing to
Right.
innovate
No,
in their
yeah,
business
totally.
in order to help you innovate in your business, but ultimately like they're not capitalized for that. And so I think what you're pointing out, which is like, find a manufacturer that's the right size for the type of business that you are prepared to build in the first year or two. And then, of course, be willing to like have the conversation with them a year or two in of like, can you grow with me or should I start looking? Because that finding another one is going to take time
Yeah.
too, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's been figuring out that too, where it's when certain issues come up and I'm learned so much. And I would say, yeah, I know our operation in and out. But it took a while to get there and understand too how things work and just expectation setting and how do we pivot now once this has happened. Yeah, I having a very clear, transparent communication line with your co-man is so crucial, especially early on. And so that way, when these things happen, they also feel comfortable enough to come to you sooner rather than later and trying to like problem solve on their end alone. And just kind of like wasting this time where you could be doing it together. I think, yeah, it's been really wonderful to have people that understand and kind of see the vision and are really bought in, but then also can say when things are a little off or yeah, we need to figure something else out or something versus, yeah, making me just spend more money.
Right, right. And I think you're touching on something that I love to come back to, which is like these are physical processes. And so I think from the outside in, for someone who hasn't stood on a production line or stood up a production line on behalf of their own business, the idea of manufacturing can be like so, I don't know, like fixed and glossy. Like a manufacturer does this thing and it's sort of in this little black box and I maybe don't even have to think about it, but like I'm going to find someone who can do my thing and then that'll be it. And the experience of standing on the production line is like, well, it's chaos. It is war. And it's also so joyfully, awesomely creative. It's like a problem solving physical thing that is literally moving through time and space and chemical and physical transformations. And we're trying to figure out how to get a mostly known but slightly unknown results at the end of it. Like the unknown part is the texture right? Is the
Right,
flavor right?
right.
Does it need
Yeah.
a tweak? Like we kind of know where we want to go and we know what it's not. But sometimes knowing what it is hard at the very beginning. And yeah, from far away, I feel like that it can feel like so abstract and like there's just these sort of like machines in the sky that make it all work. And at the end of the day, it's like you got to make friends with someone and go figure something out with them, like in the way that we all did sitting at school desks when we were little. And you're like assigned a partner for a project. And then you've got to like figure out how to work together and
Yeah.
like figure out like, you know, what good looks like for your project. And does everyone working the same?
I mean, I would say I related a lot of partnerships throughout just having a CPG company. I related to dating, whether
Okay.
it's my co-man or an advisor. I mean, there is this like initial period of like, yeah, how do you communicate? What are you like? Like, what's your personality like? And like, what do you bring to the table? Like, am I going to have to compensate in certain ways? Just like, yeah, really knowing, I mean, is this like a long-term thing or are we just getting to the next one? Like
Yeah.
what's happening here? So yeah, I feel like to having those people that come at it in that way as well is vital. Anytime I've had someone enter a conversation or a potential partnership with me and they're like, well, let's feel this out, you know, see if it's right. That's like someone I'm like, okay, I already feel very comfortable. But that, I mean, that trust is so hard too in the industry, especially when you're such a small team.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let's talk about the size of your team. I know you're a solo founder, which is like so incredible, such an undertaking. What does the team look like now, inside and outside? And I want to talk about how you and the folks around you are managing. Like, there's so much to do, right? Like retail relationships, and there's inventory planning, there's the marketing, and then there's maybe fundraising. And if it's just you, how do you start to build help around yourself? And what did you think of first when you were like, "Oh, this is a lot. Like I need X."
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably the first person that I started working with was one of my mentors, Helen, who was one of Helen Park. She was one of the judges from Snack versus Chef. And so when I was doing just product development in my home kitchen and going through, okay, here, like I tried rice and lentil flour, like what do you think about these things? And then she was the one that was really like, because I was just kind of kicking the can down the line, unsure of what to do next. And she was like, listen, you're always going to have issues. It's never going to be perfect. You just kind of have to like choose to fuck up and just start effing up. And so that's kind of like how I started building it. And I've had these individuals that have come from like different points in my life that I have almost like, yeah, like brought onto the team, whether they've wanted to or not. I have a close friend that was helping me with like personal marketing, and now she's a close partner of mine, helping me in day to day, as well as our fundraise and everything. And I've met a lot of people through different startup organizations or trade shows that have kind of, they've approached me as really big advocates and fans of Snoods. And we just started our relationship from there. So yeah, definitely having team members, which are for the most part all fractional individuals that have come from this point of like passion for the brand already, has definitely made it easier for me to bring them in on the journey.
I work with a lot of my friends and family too. And it's, I feel like if I was reading the lesson out of the book, that chapter is don't work with your friends and family. And I'm always kind of like stumping forward. Well, like maybe do.
I mean, I feel like I can kind of understand if I can work with someone or not,
Yeah.
or be able to understand how to work with someone well. And yeah, I mean, my partner is one of my closest friends. And honestly, we've become even better friends, which is unheard of. But it's because we've been able to have hard conversations and we are able to communicate effectively, but that's not every case. I mean, I don't think I would work closely with my brother, but yeah, again, that's another
Sure.
story.
Yeah. Speaking of category creation, you're like, that's a category I don't want to create for
Yeah,
myself.
we'll just hold off on that one.
Hold off on that. There's so much gold here. I mean, we've covered starting with learning, and that you don't have to know everything to start. You just sort of need to start. And one of the ways that you start and sort of shortcut how difficult it is to start is to make connections with people and ask them lots of questions. I'm like reading down my bullet list here. But then you said a couple things that I really love and I want to put on like a billboard somewhere. You said, don't get lost in the sauce.
I would say like Snoods too, like the name Snoods came from a very punny place. Like I love dad jokes, and it was like I literally was watching Sandlot, and it's that like s'mores part of the movie. And so I was like, oh, I want something that's like fun, playful, and like can kind of be like create your own adventure.
Yeah.
Snoods. And so yeah, I feel like a lot of like punny little should be a quote poster you would find in like a fifth grade classroom kind of thing.
Totally. Yeah. And like not taking yourself too seriously is a really important. It's weird. You have to take yourself pretty seriously as an operator because you have to believe against all odds that you can do the thing that you're trying to do. But then also if you take it all too seriously, I'm going to quote you again, choose to fuck up. Where you're going into this choosing to fuck up. And if you take yourself too seriously in that, then you basically just get buried in the sadness of all of that. You have to be able to just pick yourself up and like, do it again.
Even looking at our initial issues that we had in manufacturing, and we'd have certain setbacks where I'd be like, oh my gosh, we're never going to overcome this. This is the end of Snoods. Like, and now I'll get a call from my co-man. I'm like, okay, you know what? Not that it's like par for the course, but I'm like, we've seen worse, or like, this is not something that it is something that we can overcome and that we can find solutions to. So like, let's start spitballing and figure it out. So I've definitely become way more patient. I feel like across my life, not just in business, but yeah, I'm just always in this mindset. And it is that kind of competitor mentality of, we have to succeed. Like we just have to find a solution and we're going to push forward. And I don't have time to be upset because we have to just figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah. You just have to solve the problem. You're right. It's such good advice for life. Really could apply. If you can get good at that in business and just apply it to the rest of your life, like you'd be such a happier person.
Everyone should go through a startup
Everyone
course.
Should do that.
Should go through a course where you have to make a startup and you're going to go through a lot of ups and downs, and you'll be a better person at the end of it.
Okay, what's the uppiest up that you've experienced so far? And then also like your darkest moment?
Oh my gosh, uppity up. I mean, it's think along the journey, you kind of every up kind of feels different and it feels even better, even if you're putting them two side by side and you're like, that one was like way better than that. I mean, winning a Netflix show, that was pretty cool to me at the time. And now it's just, I think having a surviving CPG brand that we've overcome all of these setbacks and we have a lot of enthusiastic consumers and we're still able to work on our product and make it even better every day. I have won a lot of awards where I've just been like, I'm just going to put our hat in and just see what happens. We've won a lot of industry awards and also different publication awards. So just seeing, and that's just in the first year of launching too. And the first year of launching, we had a lot of times where I feel like, yeah, the product was just not what I wanted to be. So to see that response still, it is again very validating.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, you're just trying to share something with the world, and you just hope that someone is like standing on the other side, willing to sort of take the gift or meet you where you're at, you know?
Yeah, I feel like we launched a limited time offer, an LTO that was a sweet kugel last holiday season, and that was one where I mean, we put so much R&D and thought into it, and I had kind of quietly launched it from my commercial kitchen even the year before, and it was well received. So I was like, this is definitely something, and it felt like the right time too. But I was still just worried about being the product being misperceived or yeah, I come from this place of I just don't want to be disrespectful. And
Yeah,
I was really worried about putting this product out there and it was just met with such excitement. Everyone loves the
great.
Kugel. I'm really excited to bring it back full time, which will be happening. So yeah, it's there's been a lot of really great positive response. And I would say that even now is still the best part of it. So we're just gonna keep it going.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you about your darkest moment,
Oh
but I
yeah.
we just left with such joy there, so like, I
Um
don't want to bring you down.
I mean, yeah, darkest moment. I think just dealing I'd say it's
Soggiest
hard.
noodle, the
Yeah.
soggiest noodle.
I mean, it's you hear just hearing certain people's, I guess, like consumer experience at times, especially at points that I can't necessarily control. There's a lot of different supply chain points for our product to get to Amazon before it even gets to you. It's like hearing that someone got a really bad product or that was like a damaged in shipment product is never nice to hear, or just had a generally like bad experience. We've also experienced different issues with supply chain where had delayed shipments to certain people and it is what it is. And especially if you have the right partners, they're understanding and they want to work with you through these things and they know that you have the best intentions as well. So yeah, it just there's been a lot of different fun startup moments, but yeah, we have a great team and great partners. So we've been able to push through, which is again, we're coming back to the happy moment.
Coming back to the happy moment. We'll
Excited
stay
for the
here.
road ahead.
Well, and it's so interesting too, because like, I don't know if you've had this experience, but my experience with like direct to consumer customer support. So I read every single email that came through our customer support inbox for years. I mean, I was the customer service person for literally years. And then eventually it was like, okay, this it's too many. It's taking 4 hours a day. Like I need help. And it was so interesting how people spoke when they were just relating to the business as a business versus but it was just me
Oh
as
my
a
gosh,
person,
yes.
on the other side of it and only just trying to do the right thing and not always having all the answers or whatever. And man, people are tough. We had some tough cookies in there. And I was like, hi, I'm just a person trying to do what a person can do, which is basically like apply time and intelligence to the problem that we've created together by you being my customer. I'm
Yeah.
like not liking my thing. My best customer service moments were moments where I was able to cross the chasm of like someone relating to this problem as though we were like a, big corporate behemoth with no face to them realizing like, oh, thanks, Sam.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And that has been so clear is, yeah, consumers want to know you as a founder, you as a person, to know that who is making their food. That is another kind of angle of our company is, I mean, it is a very founder-led brand. You'll see very much the whole team if you go to our social media. And we do want people to feel kind of like they're part of our journey as we are growing and getting better. I mean, that feedback is hard to read at times, but it is very valid and we do hear it. And it has been, I would say, we've had more so these kind of like consumer groups versus focus groups in our research and development because we have been building the cars, we're driving it a bit this past year. We've been able to see kind of like that through line with the feedback in order to hone in on like, these are specific areas we need to change. How are we going to change it with minimal spend?
So your packaging is a great example of that because the packaging that you launched with has had a glow up of its own. And how much of that was sort of motivated by what you learned by being in the market or maybe listening or talking to your customers versus like, I don't have a lot of money right now. I'm just going to ship it and then like we'll come back around. I'm assuming it was a blend, but I'd love to hear the
It was
story.
definitely a blend. Initially, we launched in those stand-up pouches. So think of those pretzel flat chips in those kind of bags. And the thinking there was getting us out of the sea of the chip aisle. And so we wanted to kind of stand out a little bit more. And like I said, I was at this trade show where I ended up finding my co-man. So at the time, I was using a very small vendor for my packaging, getting it digitally printed, making it, packaging it, shipping it from my commercial kitchen, like all on my own. And so when we moved to manufacturing, we initially launched with a product that was kind of similar to that first one. But at that point, I had talked to media, I had talked to more consumers in the city because we started out with a few local retailers and there had been a consistent line of still like this confusion of what the product is. A lot of people thought it was freeze dried pasta or ready to eat pasta. And the product itself is a chip. Think like potato chip, lentil chip, but we're using the format as a chip in the shape of a noodle inspired by these dishes. So being able to change people's mindset from kind of more of this luxury product good or again like this like heat and eat meal to a snack, we knew that we needed to go to this chip bag. We needed to change people's perception of like the occasion and change it from this more like highbrow product to this could be kind of like an any moment product. So we were collecting and kind of listening and hearing that. We launched in February, March, we had this like completely different product because right after we launched, I won this pitch competition with a retailer, Fairway, as you mentioned, to over 30 retail launches, big players too. And so wanting to do it right, we had a big marketing spend that they were putting from their end behind us. And so we wanted to do it right. And we knew that we had to kind of take a little hit for a much bigger prize at the end.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that you're pointing to as well is like, especially if you're launching something that's sort of like innovative and category defining, which you are. And I've had a lot of conversations this season with like new category defining founders and the products that come along with them. And collaborating with retailers and sort of building community around you that can help create a rising tide of consumer awareness and sales around it is so important. Like it is a partnership with the retailers. It's not like you're going to build it and then they're going to come. It's like
Right.
you got to get in early and you've got to find someone who can help to sort of like sing the praises and get you on the shelf. And as you're saying, like help with more than just the shelf. Like they're helping with marketing and really helping to move that needle.
Yeah, I mean, definitely too, having retailers aren't really singing your praises. You need to be able to do that yourself. And you need to have either a demo team that's going in there to sample the product because it's not inherent what our product kind of tastes like, or like whether it's the texture or the flavor, but also to be able to kind of explain as well. And so we've done different things in trying to help our retailers be able to, I guess, sing our praises in ways that aren't these big budget spends. And so a lot of these like kind of small workarounds with these close partners that again are already big advocates for us.
And to your point, they are big advocates, but maybe I was overstating how helpful they can be sometimes. You still got to you still got to give them the inputs, you know?
I mean, there's love these like the mom and pop stores that do a lot of social engagement for us because those are really big sales drivers for us, whether it's their consumers or just the consistent POs that we can always or the consistent feedback. They're like probably the most active in terms of emails and engagement and feedback for us to understand really how is the product landing with people and even giving us like small nuances of, oh, that's really interesting to hear. Like maybe we need to tweak our messaging or tweak our formulation a little bit. So we definitely keep track of all those little messages, no matter the channel, no matter the person, whether it's a buyer or a consumer.
And as you go into retail, your point is so well taken about these small specialty retailers. Like so often, they individual proprietors. This business is their life, like your business is your life. And when they find a product that they want to bring in, they really care. It's not just numbers. Like you've sparked something emotional in them that makes them believe, and they're excited to tell your story alongside their story. And laddering into retail is, I think, such an under celebrated aspect of the growth journey, because not only does it allow you to bootstrap responsibly, AKA like sell through a batch and then or order more and then sell through a slightly
Yeah,
larger
yeah,
batch or instead of like going and whether you can do this, on your own with your own capital or you're raising, like fulfilling a big box order is catastrophically expensive for the wrong business. So working with these independent retailers who are I've never talked to a founder who's like, what I really want to do is just like start small. I'm like, oh, maybe you do.
see, I feel like I tell everyone, I'm like, I'm just trying to slow down. That is like my main feedback to everyone is because it is like, I mean, that is the initial feedback that you'll get from most industry people is that you don't want to overreach. You don't want to go
Right.
crazy in retail because it is so expensive. And I mean, but at the same time, going to investors or going and trying to find other partnerships, a lot of CPG becomes chicken and the egg because it's like, you'll want to see these numbers, but then you really can't get to those numbers without this. And so it's just, yeah, I mean, everyone's game plan is unique to them. And so figuring out what works for you is very key. And hopefully you do it sooner rather than later.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, and building, you build individual consumers one at a time, and then you start to build community, and you build individual specialty stores one at a time, and then all of a sudden you're in a regional chain. And that regional chain gets you permission for like a bigger regional grocery, and then regional grocery gets you permission for like a national big box. And that part of the journey is just like so great. Like to just let the wheel get bigger as it
Oh, yeah.
turns and like let the whole thing truly snowball. And I feel like so often we're motivated to just get to the finish line. And
Yeah.
like, I won't name names, but all of the big box stores that we're all familiar with. I mean, that's like the first thing that you'll hear out of the mouth sometimes. And you're like, but what if you what if you didn't for a minute? If you just like built something that was stable
Right.
and
Yeah.
you'll get there, right? I'm not saying not to be ambitious. I'm just saying that there is a way to channel ambition. And I think you're saying, well, I'm
Like
hoping
sustainably.
sustainably.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's so easy. And I mean, this is me just like every minute of the day comparing myself to other companies, other founders, and being I'm failing in so many areas. And I just feel like I'm not hitting the mark. And then you see new players come in and it's just like, it's a complete mind fuck for lack of better words. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I definitely been able to surround myself with other founders. And so having that community where I have like an individual I talk to almost every day now, where we just kind of like trauma dump and help find each other solutions, or we're just like, you know what, that like we're going to make it through. And so just having people that can kind of keep you more grounded because it is so easy to see others and how much they've gone from 0 to 60 in no time. And it feels very much like that is the only way to succeed. And that's just not true. There's so many amazing companies where if you knew actually when they started, you would be just shocked.
Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've sort of having been on a couple of different sides of operations at this point. When you said trauma up, I'm like, yeah, like most of what I've done is just sort of tried to help my friends solve their problems. And every once in a while, a really cool business comes out of that. Like a friend said, "Hey, who's doing your industrial design?" And I'm like, "Well, how can I help? Because I'm doing it." And so, like, how about what do you need? And like our team did it. And that later turned into a business. And the same thing happened with a couple of our early factories. And the same thing happened with our warehouse. And then the same thing happened with like, they're like, "What spreadsheet are you using for inventory management?" I'm like, "Oh, here. Just use
Exactly.
this thing. It's great. It's great." They're like,
Literally swapping resources. Yes.
totally
We have
swapping
to.
resources.
Yeah.
But the formulas are really long, man. I'm like, well, let me see if I can turn it into a macro and make it easier for you."
Yeah. Easier for you. Let me just, yeah. It is funny though, because I feel like I do find myself, and it's like, again, half like paying it forward, but then also it is a little bit nice to get out of maybe the chaos of not that my company is not chaos, but this just like, like the mayhem.
You're in a
that
safe space
yes,
for
yeah.
chaos, by the way. So
I mean, any startup is chaos, but just, getting out of the day-to-day headspace of snoots and just kind of let me focus on your issues for a minute. And then I'll be able to a little more clear when I go back to mine.
so true, right? And that's, yeah, I mean, that's one of those creative problem solving, cool things in the toolkit where you're like, go think about a different problem or
Yeah.
take a walk and come back to it. And like your mind will have just opened itself up enough to like present you with the right answer for your problem, even though you might have been like banging your head against the wall for
Yes.
days.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find myself like, I'll come back to something and be like, I have an easy solution for this. Why didn't I think of this before? But it's because you're just staring at your own shit all day that it's very hard to that's why, I mean, there's multiple levels of editors. You need another set of eyes or just, yeah, to step away and come back to things.
Stepping away and coming back. I'm going to add that to your quotes. "Don't get lost in the sauce" is my favorite. This has been such a pleasant conversation. Thank you so much for being so giving and sharing about your story and the hard parts and the rad parts. My next question is really, how can we be the most helpful to you? And how can we learn more about what you're building? Where can we buy some snoods?
Well, this has been wonderful. I'm so excited that we got to talk. I feel like it was very much, I mean, I feel like I leave every podcast I do and I'm like, this was therapy, but it is nice to just be able to talk to industry experts, industry leaders, and to, yeah, really get into the weeds about what's happening and grow from it together. I mean, I love that CPG is just so community based and we're very eager to grow together. Back to Snoods. So you can find us at eatsnoods.com, Eat Snoods on social media. Definitely swoop up our product, buy it, try out noodle chips, tell all your friends about it. We're concentrated around the East Coast. We just launched in Raleigh in Northern California and Nevada. So check us out there. And we're expanding. So please try our noodle chips and leave us some reviews.
Rad. Thank you again for coming. It's been really fun. And I'm going to eat some chips.
Amazing. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.